Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Rabbi Isai, we're holding by Toshma 7 lines from the bottom of Pei Omid Beis. So, to remind the Olam, yesterday we had a case. You have a cup, a kli full of special chatos water. It's called paraduma water, mei chatos. Not from a carbon chatos, from the paraduma. This is water from a spring. It's mixed with ashes. And if somebody's tamei, you take a little bit with a few branches of eza or whatever, and you give him a zetz. You sprinkle it. Then, this guy goes ahead and tries to refill a little bit from the sink. He opens up the sink. What's the halacha? So we said, according to Rabbi Eliezer, he should sprinkle the person twice. Usually once. In this situation, twice. And we said there's 3 things that could happen over here. There's a machlokes if yesh bila or ein bila. Is every drop mixed with, if you put a liquid, introduce liquid into a very large amount of liquid, does every drop of liquid have a molecule of that other liquid that you introduced there? So if you put a little bit from the sink, every single drop in this kli is going to have a little bit from the sink. And this is ein bila. We say that they're individual drops, they don't mix. Okay, that was one thing that we discussed. We also discussed whether the two hazars combined together as one. And then we also had, what was the other thing? Shear. Do you need a shear? Let's say, do you need a minimum of 10 milliliters? Okay. So we had 3 ways to understand Rabbi Eliezer says you need 2 hazais. And one of them was Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi holds there's no good mixture between the drops, halachically. We don't say that every drop is a mixture. Also, you don't need a shear. You don't need a special shear. So why do you need to do it twice? You need to do it twice because since there's no bila, maybe the first time you got 0. You try to sprinkle him, and when you dunked it in, you got only bad water, only sink water. You do it twice, you're going to get a little bit of the kosher. That's what he said. So the Gemara says, Tashma, I want to ask you a question of this. In other words, if you take a look at this chart, Rish Lakish and Rava both hold yesh bila. There's a on the molecule level, there's a tremendous mixture of all liquids in this cup. And Rav Ashi says, no, there isn't. And this is a halachic argument. I don't think it was a factual argument. It's a halachic argument. Toshma. We know these cases, and they're going to be all the same. And today's daf is like that. We're going to be a little bit repetitive today in what we're learning. There are animals that there are karbanos that you have to sprinkle all 4 sides of the mizbeach. And these 3 you only sprinkle 1 time. The Karban Pesach, Bechar, and Ma'aser. So what if the Bechar's blood got mixed up with some Karban Pesach blood? What do? So you sprinkle once on the Mizbeach. The question is, 1 time, and there's 0 mixture, combination. There's no guarantee that all the molecules are mixed if you hold ein bila. So when you sprinkled on the Mizbeach, maybe you got only the Bechar, or maybe you got only the Karban Pesach. How is 1 Zrika going to help? Very simple question. You're supposed to just give 1 sprinkle on the Mizbeach, 1 hazah, 1 Zrika. V'yamr saying bila, and if you say, like Rav Ashi, that on the molecule level it's not mixed in, how's that going to help me? Maybe he did a Zrika for the Bechar, and he didn't do a Zrika for the Karban Pesach. Says the Gemara, we must say, there's exactly 2 each measurement. Let's say there's 10 milliliters of Bechar and 10 milliliters of Pesach. So you do 2 sprinkles, says Rashi. Achas ba'achas, shenisarvu achas ba'achas, says Rashi, and then you have to do the 2 Zrikas. You have to do for both. Matan arba b'matan arba. Same exact question, same exact answer. Let's say an oila on the right and a shlamim got mixed in. So what do? You apply the blood only 4 times, not 8 times, 4 times. And you're going to get both. You're going to get the oil and the shlamim and the zrika. Ain't bila. And if there's no mixture, who told you that in each drop there's a oil and a shlamim? Maybe you only did shlamim and 0 for the oil. Says the Gemara, matan arba b'matana achas. You took the entire mixture and you applied it to the mizbeach, and you did 4 and 4, says Rashi. Okay, it's 4 and 4. You got to put that in a pencil over here. He put in that mixture, the exact mixture of the oil and the shlamim, and matan arba matana achas. Ask the Gemara, what about the case matan arba matana achas? You have an oila who got mixed up with a carbon pesach. You're supposed to do 4 matanas for the oila, 1 matana for the b'char, let's say. I like b'char. B'char. B'chit heima daf pei aleph amid aleph. 80 daf into Masech Zevachim. B'chit heima ochinavi bin esarvu arba ba'achas. What are you going to tell me? That he took 40 milliliters of the oila, 10 milliliters of the b'char, put them all together, and applied all of it on the mizbeach somehow. Rabbi Shua is complaining to Rabbi Eliezer that what you're doing, you're putting extra matanas for the b'char. Where are you going to have a Baal Tosef? Over here, you took everything and you took one shear of the b'char, and you put it on the mizbeach. So if you put it on the mizbeach, you yaitza. What's the problem? Why is it Baal Tosef? There was 10 milliliters of b'char, and you put that 10 milliliters on the mizbeach. Why do you think that it's about Tosef? So Tosef asks right away. It's really on the base over here about Tosef. Let me see. I didn't notice that there's a chafir. It probably says that it's shaykh to later. Yeah, okay, he does say. So Tosef asks, wait a minute. Let's say you took 10 milliliters and you put it on 2 walls. That's another similar to what you asked. You put it on 2 walls, so it's about Tosef. So what if you put all the blood that belongs to the b'char on the mizbeach? But it's possible you took all the blood that belongs to the b'char and put it on 2 separate walls, and that's Baal Tosef. B'char, you only put it once. So it says Tosef, since it's not 100%, it's possible you put it on 1 wall, so it's Baal Tosef b'safek. Baal Tosef b'safek is not a problem. That's what he says. So memela what? So you cannot say that it's exact, because if it's exact, then Rabbi Shua wouldn't say it's Baal Tosef. So it's not exact. So there's a lot of b'char, a lot of b'char. And that's why he's saying, you're going to do extra on different walls. So then the question is, if there's a lot of b'char, there's a lot of blood from the b'char. So I'm just repeating the question. There's a lot of blood of b'char, and you applied the blood on the mizbech. If ein bila, maybe you only applied the b'char and 0 of the oila. How do you know that you're yaitz the oila? If you hold ein bila, so how do I know that I applied the b'char and the oila? Maybe, since we already established there's a lot of b'char blood. So maybe I poked God all the b'char blood on the mizbech and 0 of the oila. If there's no molecule mixture. What's the whole problem here? The shaila is, you're asking me from the Mishnah, our Mishnah, with the chatas and the oila mixed in, this, that you have a raya that there's no mixture on the molecular level. Our Mishnah with the chatas and the oil is not even talking about that they're mixed in the same vessel. You're doing a science experiment. Here, what was this? Oh, no, that's something else. Does it belong to later? I just need to make sure. I'll just show it here. Oh. I guess that's for a little later. Fine, just remember that one. Fine. That's a mixture. So says the Gemara, no. You're asking me a question from the Mishnah, from the Brisa. That's not a raya that Rebbe Lezer holds one way or another, because in the Mishnah and the Brisa we're not talking about blood mixed like we just saw, that two types of blood were mixed in one kli. Over here we're talking about separate kalim. There's a kli of a chatos and a kli of oila, and that's mixed in, but not on the molecular level. They're mixed together and you don't know what to do with it. So you take it and you pour it on the top, you pour it on the bottom. But bala pligi, ki pligi b'kaisos. The machlokes is when they're separated in individual kalim. The Rebbe Lezer islay roim. Rebbe Lezer says you could pour from an individual kli on the top of the mizbeach, let's say, and say If this is actually the oila blood, I'm not pouring it as a zrika, I'm pouring it as water. And if it's chatas blood, it should be yaitza. The Rabbanon less l'urayim, they say there's no such thing as I pretend. As the Gemara, so you're telling me that they don't argue about if it's mixed in one kli. But I see foolish that Rabbi Yehuda says they do. There's no machlokes when the oila and the chatos get mixed in that it should go on the mizbeach. In other words, he argues on the Mishnah. And there's no argument that when it comes to blood of an animal that's possible, like there was a avera done to that animal, you don't put it on the mizbeach. So where is the machlokes? Talking about a bal mum. There's a mum in the animal, and that got mixed up with blood of an animal that's good for the mizbeach. And here he says mefurish the word balul. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Eliezer holds that even if it's mixed in one kli or in separate kalim, you should put it on the mizbeach. So you see that Rabbi Eliezer argues on balul, on mixed in a kli. Says the Gemara, that's not a good raya either. Rabbi Yehuda, I'll leave it to Rabbi Eliezer, Mastin, Ben Bebala, Ben Bekoisis. You're right. Rabbi Yehuda himself holds in Rabbi Eliezer that Rabbi Eliezer doesn't distinguish between a mix-up of different cups versus a mix-up in the actual cup itself. But from our Mishnah, you don't have a raya. You're asking me from my Mishnah. Our Mishnah could be talking about kaisos. The Chachamim, sorry. Where am I? Nachamo. Rabbi Yehuda Ali with the Rabbi Eliezer Masni Ben Bebol Ben Bekoises. Is that where I'm holding? Yes. Rabbi Yehuda Aliba the Rabbi Eliezer Masni Ben Bebol Ben Bekoises. You're right. Rabbi Yehuda himself says that that's what Rabbi Eliezer says. That Rabbi Eliezer doesn't distinguish between the two. Rabbanan, in other words, our Mishnah Bekoises pligi. Our Mishnah is only talking about cups. Mamela, I can't bring a raya from our Mishnah that Rabbi Eliezer holds a certain way when it comes to a real mixture. We're not talking about a real mixture, we're talking about cups that got mixed up. Good. So that brand new sugi Rabbi say. Amar Abai. So we had the question that you have something like this. We have blood. Don't look at this bedafka, but just the idea. Blood that belongs above the red line got mixed in with blood that belongs below the red line. Oil and chatas blood. Here comes the question. Simple question, simple Gemara. The machlokes over here is whether or not you could do zrika on the top when you know that you have inside your kli blood that belongs in the bottom. And could you do zrika on the bottom when you know that in the kli you have blood that belongs on top? If you know that, let's say the blood was already sprinkled on the top for the chatas, and now there's a mixture, you hear Rabbi say very simple. There's a mixture of chatas blood. Where does the rest of the chatas blood go? I already sprinkled the top. Now what do I do with it? Shirayim, I got to put it into the drain. And I also have oil blood that must be sprinkled on the wall of the bottom. That's where the machlokes is. Could I put that whole mixture on the wall? Why? Because it doesn't belong on a wall. Where does it belong? The chatas belongs in the drain. Let's take a look. This is the machlokes right over here. The oila belongs in the red. That's where you're supposed to put it, on the wall. The chatas belongs on the purple. So my question is, can I put the entire mixture on the red? And I'll be yaitza. I'll say, I'm doing this for shirayim. Eventually it's going to drip down, like he said before. It's going to drip down into the drain. Shalom Yisrael. So what does he say? Divrei hakol, mekoim moila, mekoim shirayim. No. The wall is also good. You're able to put shirayim on a wall. You don't need to put it on the horizontal surface. You can put it on the vertical surface. Okay? So now comes an argument. This is what Rabbi Yehuda said. Shirayim tzrichim itztaba. You cannot put the blood of the chatos, after you put it above the red line, you can't put it on the red wall. You have to put it on the purple surface. It needs an instab, it needs like a table, it needs a flat surface. This is again repeating what we just said. By the way, interesting, it's not Reb Shimon, it's Reb Shimon ben Lakish. It's not the famous Tana Reb Shimon ben Yochai, it's the famous Amoira Reb Shimon ben Lakish. There's no machlokes that you put it on the wall. If you're trying to do shirayim, you put it on the wall and just drip down into the drain. It's not true. There is a machlokes. You can't put it on the wall. Just that what? Rebbe Eliezer says, if you have chatos, I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to say to myself, well, wait a minute. If it's the oila, great. That's where it belongs, in the wall. If it's a chatos, it's water. Mazur Avuna Bar Yehuda. So now the Gemara is going to bring 3 psukim that basically say the same halacha. It says by a b'char kodesh heim. A b'char is kodesh. Yeah, it's kodesh. So what is it coming to tell us? If the b'char gets mixed up with, let's say, an oila, and listen to this, even though, we're going to see soon, even though, I'll have to say the even though later, you could still put it on the mizbeach. So the Gemara says, my lav soif oila ubechar. Aren't we talking about that the oila was already sprinkled on the mizbeach? So what do you have to do with the oila? Shirayim. And the bechar, you have to do the first sprinkle of bechar. It doesn't distinguish, it could be anything. It's a mixture of bloods. Bloods that go in the drain, and bloods that you have to do zrika on. The fact that you can continue doing the zrika, we're going to put the oila blood. Rabbi said, we're going to put the oila blood in this case. Here, look at the screen. We're going to put the oila. You're done doing oila. It's the end of the oila, beginning of the bechar. So you're going to have to put the oila on the wall, because you certainly can't put the bechar in the drain. You're going to have to put the bechar on the wall, and it says you could just do one sprinkle on the wall in your yaitza. In other words, you don't have to put the oila in the drain on the flat surface. You can put it on the wall. Loi. We're not talking about this case. We're talking about a different case. They both weren't sprinkled at all, and memela, the chiddush is I could put it on the wall. But what's the chiddush? They both belong below the red line, and I'm throwing it on below the red line on the bottom. What's the problem? Why should that be a problem? Oh, Michael Mashmalon, dein oilin mevatlim zeze. Oilin in this particular case, oilin refers to karbanos. One carbon cannot cancel out another carbon. Even if one carbon has much more blood than the other, let's say the oila is 90% of the blood in the kli, and the bechar is 10%, one does not cancel out the other with a roiv, and I could throw it on the mizbeach. That's a big chiddush. So, there's a mefurish pasuk that says this, that when it comes to Yom Kippur, I take the blood of the ox and the blood of the goat, and I mix them together. So the chiddush is, even though on Yom Kippur you're going to get a lot more blood from the bull than you got from the goat. And the Torah says, apply it like that, even though there's a roiv. So says the Gemara. So why am I learning it from this pasuk of Kodesh Haim when I could learn now from V'lokach dat midam apar? So the Gemara says an answer that we don't see very often. No, it says, this is machlokes tanoim, which pasuk to use. You can use this pasuk, you can use this pasuk. And the Gemara is going to make it tzrichus actually later. You're right, we have 2 psukim, Lokach dam apar, Kodesh Haim. Masav Rava. But I have another pasuk. V'krivu b'nei aharon es adam. V'zarku es adam. Stop, don't turn the page. Look, it says the word dam twice. It should say, V'krivu b'nei aharon es adam. V'zarku. Well, what's dam? Madam loymar. Madam dam. By the way, there are those who say this is where they got the candy from. The dam. Whatever, lam sheneh. Shiyachal ein li ela shenis arba b'tmurasa. I would think that it's dafka when you have an oila here like this. You guys probably didn't see this one. If you make a tmura, you have a small animal, and you see a large animal, you say, "Oh, Rebbeinu Shalom, I want to do better." Like Cain in heaven, let's say. I don't know, something like.
הרי זו, תמורת זו.
So they both become kaddish. So what does it say over here? So I would think if the blood of one oila got mixed in with the other oila, Or Chulin Rashi says, Shaf Mechaim Tikarev. You know, in this case, both of these animals, you're makriv them. Minayin, okay, so fine. So you have blood, the two bloods got mixed in, of the Tmura not, fine, I could put it on the Mizbech. But how do I know? Minayin l'Rabbis Toidu Shlamim. What if the blood of the Oila got mixed in with the blood of Toidu Shlamim? It's a completely different type. It's a different type of carbon. How do I know that you could put it on the Mizbech? Because they're very similar, because they can be brought as a gift to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and a Nedava. So, okay, I'm still trying to figure out what to do with that extra word dam. It says dam twice. How about when Asham blood gets mixed in with oil blood? They're very similar because they both require the same amount of zrikas on the Mizbech. Oh, and finally, Bechor Maisur Pesach Minayin. Bechor Maisur Pesach are so different than an oil. Think about it. What's different about them? How many things can you come up with? First of all, one is Kachik Kalim, one is Kachik Kachim. The other reason is one gets applied, one matana and the other. And the other thing is a Bechor Maisur cannot be brought as a Nidava. If you're born first, you're born first. That if the two dams get mixed up, the Oila and the Bechor, you could apply them. My lav. Again, once again, the same question, same answer. No. My lav, Saif, Oila, Bechor. That we're talking about, that the Oila is the Shirayim. Where does Shirayim go, Rab? Boisai. Hold on. Oh, yeah, I know what you're doing over there, Gershon. But I just want to show this here. The Shirayim goes on the purple. That's the Oila. The Oila should go on the purple. The Bechor must be applied on the red. And I'm telling you, don't worry about it. Just apply all of it on the red. So what do you see? That you don't have to put the Shirayim in the purple. You can put the Shirayim on the red. My life, that the Bechor is the beginning part of the Zrika. Same answer we said before. The both the initial Zrika, and you put it below the red line on the red part of the Mizbech. So what's the big Chiddush? Once you be about the other one. Oh, ask the Gemara. Why do I need the pasuk dam to tell me this chiddush? I already learned from mivilokach dam apar midam asar. So what do we have? Rabbi Isai, I know this halacha that a oila is not mevatel oila. In other words, a carbon is not mevatel a carbon. Even if you have 90% of any carbon, grab it a carbon. Forget the oila because the oila is confusing here. The word oila means a carbon. If you have 90% blood of a carbon pesach and 10% blood of a bechar, you can do zrika. It's not mevatel. One is not about the other. I learned it from 3 different sources. I learned that from Melokach Dam Apar Medam Asar. I learned it from Dam Dam, and I learned it from Kodesh Haim. 3 different places. And the Gemara here says, Tanoi Yikin Nafkalim Hacha Yikin Nafkalim Hacha. You're right. Some people learn from this passage, some learn from that passage. Says the Gemara. How come they don't learn from Melokach Medam Apar? Because this Medam Apar Medam Asar is on Yom Kippur. When you mix, the Torah tells you to mix the blood of a bull with the blood of a goat. How much blood does a bull have, Rabbi Isai? Very good. And remember that sugi that we learned? So it goes together. But it doesn't go together. When you put it on the kronis here, you don't mix the blood in that kli of the par and the source. I don't have a raya. Mixing, not mixing. They don't mix it, according to this man Dalmar. Okay, so Midam dam lo. How come they all 3 don't learn from one pasuk dam dam like we just learned? Dam dam lo mashmul. What? Because it says another time dam in the pasuk, so you're going to make a whole big deal out of it. I don't think it's an extra word that you can darshan from. Ella mikaydish heim my dam lo yafli. But the original pasuk that says that the bechar is kaidish and it could go mix in with another oila and it's not going to affect it. Keep on sprinkling it. My time lo yafli. How come everybody doesn't learn from there? Because Sarvi kaidish heim, that pasuk is not available. The pasuk by Bechar. Hein kreva vein tmurasim kreva. That if you do a tmura to Bechar, you say, not only is this a firstborn, but also this guy is a firstborn. You do not put it on the mizbeach like you would do for oila and everything else. That's a chiddush gadol. Kodesh haim, only the original and not the tmura. Vidach, but everybody agrees to this halacha. So that is the other man that learns from the other pasuk. What does he do? I'm sorry, that he learns from kodesh haim. He doesn't have an extra kodesh haim. So how does he learn this halacha? By Bechar it says im shar im se. In other words, it's dafka this and not a tmura. Hu karev ve'ein tmurasoi kreva. Tashma nasan lemala v'lei nimlach. So if you have a mixture of chatas and oil blood, and without asking the rabbi, he went and he put the blood on top of the mizbeach, you should take whatever's left over. What's left over, Rabbi Isai? Shirayim of a chatos and a little bit of oil, and put it on the bottom. And you get your yoytz chatas, your yoytz oil. My love, the or of chatas ve'oila. L'chayr, we're talking about a situation where the chatas and the oil got mixed in together. What happened? He already put the chatas on the top, above the red line. So what's left from the chatas? The leftovers. And where are you supposed to put the leftovers? In the drain. And everybody usually put it on the bottom. What's on the bottom? On the wall. On this place, right over here, on the red place. Everybody agrees you put on the red. Part of it is shirayim blood, and shirayim blood belongs where? In the drain. Let me show you just over here. I didn't show you this, but whatever. I love how he takes a backwards flip and nothing. Oh, he puts it on the wall, and some of it is going to drip into the drain. That you're allowed to put the chatas blood on the wall, and it's okay. They say in Eretz Yisrael, oh, we're not talking about a chatas and oil getting mixed up. We're talking about two chatos that get mixed in. In other words, the chatas on Yom Kippur that belongs inside the heichal, the chatas of a regular day that belongs outside, those two bloods got mixed in. They put it already on the top. Now, what's left over? Only blood that belongs in the shirayim. Both are chatos, and it's both leftovers. So both leftovers belong on the bottom, and you put it on the bottom. According to everybody, you're yoytza. Why don't you just say that we're talking about a case where two chatos got mixed in together? What do I gain? Says Rashi, I gain because there's no machlekes where you put this. Everybody agrees you put it in the drain. There's machlekes where you put the stuff from the dam from the pnimi. But there's no machlekes here. Listen to this. There's a mandama that says that the leftover blood on Yom Kippur only. On Yom Kippur, if you don't pour that into the drain, you're not yoytz to the carbon. What if I pour it in the drain, but 10% is missing? Why is 10% missing? Because I sprinkled it on top of the mizbeach. I put it on top of the red line. So some of it is missing. Maybe that ruins it, and I don't have enough shirayim. Says the Gemara. Oh, sorry. Okay, fine. So that's the chiddush that it's not market. Real quickly, remember yesterday we already established that this exact case of the blood of the chatos and the oila are together. And what's going on here? There's 40 milliliters of blue, there's 60 milliliters of red, and the chiddush is, or we have to assume that we're talking about he put 50 milliliters of blood on top of the red line. How much oil of blood is there? 40 milliliters. So if you put 50, you're 100% going to get a little chatas in there too, because you did more than the 40 oil. So how can you tell me that we're talking about a case of a chatas pnimi? We already established yesterday, last daf, on daf pei, that there's chatas and oil, not chatas pnimi and chatas chitzoni. There's oil here, and we already said it's 40. It's look what he did today. He changed it a little bit. He poured it. He pours 40 milliliters of blue and 10 milliliters of red. So you definitely got some red in there, and that's what we said. Put a little bit more of the red. That was Rabbi Isai to answer Ravashi. Ravashi holds Ein Bila. Ein Bila, we had to say put 50 milliliters, not 40. But we said already that we're not going like that. We hold that the whole problem here is not that it got mixed in one cup. It's a bunch of cups that got mixed up. So maybe we could say it's talking about a chatzis chitzoni, chatzis pnimi. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.